Okay, so thanks for coming, everyone. So as Kathryn was saying, what we wanted to do was try and take some of those ideas that have been developed over the last few years and apply them to university level teaching. And we did that through creating the Cabinet platform. So it's basically a website that allows you to gather together lots of different digital resources in one location. So rather than having to use different websites to look at, for example, an image of an object from a museum and a manuscript from the Bodleian, for example, we can view them all in one place. And crucially, we've also built in tools for you to engage with the objects. And that also gives kind of the facility to guide students and start them off in how they would approach looking at reading objects as material culture. So it's been designed to be incredibly flexible, we hope. So it's been designed so we can use it during class, sort of as a presentation. It can be used in tutorials, which Oxford is famous for, and also in independent study before, during, and after class. And the idea was to just make the studying process a lot simpler and to encourage students to think about looking at objects in new ways and bring them into their teaching, into their learning alongside traditional text-based resources. And it's been cut off, but for those who are interested, it's a Drupal-based platform that sits behind single sign-on, so the majority of material can be protected. And it's the way it works technically is it's a plugin that runs through WebLearn. So it fits into existing university systems.
Go forward.
Next slide. So this is the page that most students would see when they logged in. As you can see, it's got a wide selection of content. We've been working with dermatology, for example, everything from dermatology to plant identification with continuing education, archaeology, anthropology, and English. So we've been really heartened by the amount of the breadth of interest that we've received. So probably the most well-developed course that we've got up there so far is known as Special Subject 13. It's a course run by Professor Hammond Hodgson in the history of science. A subject for which Oxford is particularly relevant. There's a lot of really interesting resources. Once you drill down into one of these courses, you get a list of units, and again, this can be customized as you see fit. It could be done by unit, it could be done by week and tutorial, it could also be done by organized by artistic movement, for example, or general theme. If you go down a level further, you get these individual, what we call sources. Now, a source can be a combination of 2D and 3D objects. It could be a person, it could be a place, or even just an idea. It's a very broad term. It could, in fact, basically these are just folders. You can have whatever content you wish inside there. But the great thing about sources is that once you get inside, we have these tools that allow you to you can tag in the traditional sense. You can add keywords, but you can also add these, we call these annotations, which can be expanded into kind of a more lengthy comment on individual aspects of the picture, a 2D or 3D image. And the great thing about this is that there are multiple uses of this, but one that we designed it for was that students could be guided into how you approach an image like this. If you're somebody who's used to looking at text-based sources, I mean, that's clear. You read them, but how do you read an image or a 3D object? So this was a means of providing that sort of impetus to encourage further study of them. There's also the ability for students to add their own annotations and add to the discussion, as well as this is an example of a 3D object that's been annotated. It works in much the same way. There's also, if you go into one of these in more detail, the facility to start a discussion on individual annotations. So a few new features that we've recently built in. We've got, as I said, the ability to incorporate multiple 2D and 3D images. We can draw in content from other websites that make images available via Creative Commons, for example. So these examples are from the Welcome collection. We can also, you can't really see, but we can also embed YouTube content and audio, so you can talk a student through how they would approach looking at an object. We've got scale bars as well, and this example here, the sundial here, is actually 7 meters tall in real life, and it's an example of how we can use the technique that we primarily use to make these 3D models, known as photogrammetry, which I'll talk about, to capture parts of the built environment and larger objects, as well as kind of smaller things that you might expect to see in a museum. So this is just one example of the history paper that I mentioned. We can group sources together into what we term clusters. I suppose they're sort of like drawers. And within each of those, we can look at we can look at groups of sources. This is an example from the Museum of the History of Science, which has been annotated to show an annotation. It's got several labels on it. And this is unpleasant, so I'll skip over it. We're working with dermatology as well, and there's some interest coming from other areas of clinical medicine whose teaching is actually very image heavy, and so they can see the value of this, both 2D imagery and 3D. This is an example of some public content that we're putting together. So we got some support from the Van Houten Fund at the university to go out into various museums and hidden collections, so places in colleges and so on, and to produce a public-facing area of the site. So that is still under development, but watch this space. So I mentioned photogrammetry, which is the way we make these 3D models. So very simply put, it's using 2D photographs to make measurements of an object in 3D space and create a representation of that using literally a point cloud, a cloud of 3D coordinates. So the technique in theory is very simple. You place the object in the center and you take as many photographs as you can. Tends to be about 40 or 50. In practice, which usually takes about 20 minutes, depending on the complexity of the object. After that, I mentioned this point cloud. This is an example here. The software will align the cameras and work out where the photographs were taken from. You can then join the dots basically to produce this kind of wireframe mesh, which is then the photographic texture is then laid on top. So what's great about this is that we can provide high quality 3D data with a photographic appearance whilst keeping the file size quite low, because we can compress the mesh, which is the main driver of the high file size in many cases. And very briefly, the advantages of this. Unlike laser scanning, it doesn't require any specialist equipment. You just need a reasonable camera. I started out by doing this with my phone. Some software, and which I use Agisoft Photoscan. There are many different examples around that can also be used, and it can run on most computers. It will the thing that will vary is the speed at which you can process the models. Crucially, in a museum context where I mostly work for cabinet, often there's not a huge amount of space in museums. You have different lighting conditions, you have different shapes of room, and obviously you can't take the objects out to the OAI to photograph them. They have to be done in situ, as it were. So it's a very portable and versatile method, which is why we use it. So that's all well and good, but what do students actually think of it? In summary, they quite like it, at least the ones we've spoken to so far. So as part of the History of Science course that I mentioned under Professor Hodgson, we ran a focus group at the end of last year where we spoke to a number of students who'd used the platform in their study, and they really liked it. And basically said that they'd been using it before, during and after class, and the great thing is that when we looked at the web analytics, they were actually doing what they said, and we did see spikes immediately after, and I think the day after as well.
Yeah,
so
the biggest spike was the following day.
So people were going back to this material, which is really encouraging. I wish I'd had something like this when I was studying. And some key things that they requested is that they wanted Cabinet to be used more. They were encouraged themselves to go out and actually visit the original objects, far from replacing the original object. The digital actually encouraged them to go out and see the original, which is very encouraging. And just to give you an idea, the main things that they found particularly useful were improving the efficiency of learning. So they commented on sort of the intellectual organisation of Cabinet and how it was useful to have all the sources in one place and get familiar with a core base of material that you could then build on. And as I mentioned, supporting revision. And the last point is really interesting and encouraging to us as well. Avoiding blatant anachronisms. So in the context of history, being able to look at the objects, to look and see what people wore, what people ate, and parts of people's daily lives, help them to understand the period more than just reading books.
I think the other thing that the students were saying was that the texts feel very well worn. You know, the texts that are available in most of these courses, particularly in history where curriculum review can be slow, they've been used and they've been thought about and they've been written about a lot, whereas the objects are much fresher to the students and to the literature, and so by working with the objects, they automatically feel more original. They feel like they're able to say things that are fresher and more relevant, and to knit those ideas together with some of the textual material in ways that feel less hackneyed in lots of ways. So, and I think the other thing that they said that was fascinating was they liked the boundedness of Cabinet. They liked the sense that everything they needed, including the links for them to go on to study things further if they wanted to, were all within the platform. They felt that they could follow a trail and they knew what they were doing. And I think some of those annotations that Jamie showed, where the tutors had marked up areas of interest in some of the objects, gave them a sense of a pattern of things to, steps to follow that were similar to the crowdsourcing tasks that we saw earlier. So they felt that there was enough guidance that they could get started with the objects, and then some freedom and real originality once they'd got the hang of it to work through the rest of the objects on display. So that was really terrifically encouraging to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically where are we now? Next steps. So we have a rather large list of people who have expressed interest in Cabinet, who are wanting to build courses in our office. These are just a few of them. And as I was saying before, I mean, we've got a huge variety of different subjects interested, from clinical medicine to business school to archaeology. So it's tremendously exciting to see that this is the tool that we created is something that can be applied to so many different areas across the university, and potentially to other ages as well. So that's a future plan.
So I think one of the most exciting developments is that we're starting to see team-taught courses being built collaboratively. So there's a lot of team-taught courses in Oxford, and if if one faculty member contributes a few objects, but every single member of the team contributes a few objects, suddenly you get this huge collection that students can work with that's been assembled really in a really thoughtful way that connects really deeply with the course materials. So I think a kind of crowdsourced collection of materials that then is subject to the sort of crowdsourced meaning making in tagging and annotating is really exciting, and it's a stage further than we anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all our little logos have disappeared, but but maybe if we connect this, we might be able to show you how it works. So.
Bear with.
Live demo, what could go wrong? All the way around?
Oh, it's always the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, Right, do you want to do it, Jamie?
Sure,
show your favourite objects off.
Okay, so I mentioned the sundial. Just quite a fun one to photograph. So this is the papers page. If I go to the second page. Yeah, so this is the history course I was mentioning. Let's go to tutorial 2. Selection of sources here and a cluster on sundials. I tap on this one. Okay, so we've got a selection of 2D and 3D images. In this example, some people will recognise. So this, you can go and see the original in Corpus Christi College, but on here, if you zoom in, you can read. I believe there are about 250 sundials built into this in some way. So the great thing about this is it's actually quite difficult to see these things from the ground in real life. So you can explore on here in your own time. And we've also got this one is publicly available if you want to have a look. And we've got a summary that Professor Hodgson has written alongside that. So yeah, if anyone is interested in finding out more and would like access to this, I can try and I can grab access so you can explore the content we've got on there so far.
So there's two interesting things that I would like to say about that. One is that Jamie took all of those photographs from the ground. So all of that detail that you've got has been assembled from quite a simple method of capturing the photographs, although the method for putting it all together is quite complex, and there's a little bit of tinkering, particularly with something that tall. And the other thing that I thought was interesting to show you with the iPad is that the platform's deliberately designed to be very mobile friendly, because there's something about the experience of digitally handling these materials that's, I think, qualitatively different than just looking at them on the screen. And I think that's why we're seeing the surge of student activity the day after they've worked with objects in class or worked with the digital objects in class, because they can go back and examine and really spend time looking at some of the features that have become interesting through their reading, through their comparative work in class. So there's more we'd like to do research-wise in terms of how people are working with the objects. It's a really interesting haptic experience that's going on there. So that's high up on our research agenda for the future, as is monitoring the sort of increasing crowd of students who are using the platform in different ways to understand a little bit about interdisciplinarity, whether these processes are the same in different subject areas, particularly now we've got more science subjects coming on board with the life sciences and the clinical medicine. So there's lots to explore, and we're still at quite an early stage with this project. It's been formally taught only a handful of times. A few courses have been formally taught with Cabinet, but we're about to release quite a lot more, so there'll be more research data coming.